Hi, I'm Ann Laffey, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to demonstrate how I go about clarifying challenging topics. So the easiest way to show you how I would explain a difficult anthropological concept is to show you a demonstration of how I would counsel a student who came to my office hours for help. A concept that often challenges students is the Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis. Essentially, the hypothesis asserts that the primary language we speak both enables and restricts our ability to understand our world. According to the strong version of the hypothesis, if two people grow up speaking different languages, they are essentially living in differently constructed worlds. This means that their perceptions and interpretations are tightly bound to linguistic categories and structural rules. The reason that it is so challenging for students is that the concept delves into abstract ideas that involve evolutionary processes relating to language acquisition and a consideration of whether there are universal patterns to the way that humans construct thought and meaning. So, let's meet our student.
Hi, Professor. I just had a question about one of the things that's going to be on the exam, the Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis.
Excellent. Hi, Tristan. Please come on in and sit down. How are you?
Doing well.
Excellent. Happy to see you here. I'm glad that you kind of trekked out for help. First of all, what is your kind of foundational understanding of what the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis actually means?
Different languages specify and have more importance on different things.
Okay, well, I think you're awfully close. There are some more nuanced implications of what it means, but let's turn to the book and see how closely the book's definition matches what you already know about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. So here it is in the textbook. What does it actually say?
The idea that different languages create different ways of thinking.
Okay, excellent. You ready to do a mind experiment?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Let's suppose that I'm magical and I have the power to kind of transport you off to a place that you've never actually been to before. Have you been to the Black Forest in Germany?
No.
Okay, excellent. Poof, you're in the Black Forest and welcome to Germany. All right, now I'm so magical that I'm going to transport another person to kind of go with you on your journey and kind of to enjoy the forest. This individual comes from the Amazonian jungle, and they don't go to Publix for their shopping pleasure. They actually will go to gather things out in the forest, but they're also horticulturalists, so they will grow things in their garden as well. So congratulations, you have a new friend from the Amazon jungle. You are both making your way through that forest. And what I'm going to do is, with my experiment, is I'm going to have you both go through there. And when you come back, I'm going to listen to the description that both of you give me. And so when you get done, I'm going to see if I can actually tell where you guys were. So you've gone through the Black Forest, you've come back. What did you think of it? How do you think it's going to look, and how do you think you would actually describe it?
Describe the weather, the types of trees maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The topography, I guess.
Topography, okay. That sounds kind of what I would think of if I was going through the Black Forest. I might say, oh, the trees were beautiful. It was such a lovely day. The path was easy to kind of walk on. That would be kind of the same description that I might have if I went through the Black Forest. How do you think your counterpart from the Amazon jungle is going to describe, knowing what you know about their environment and how they subsist?
Definitely plant-centric.
Plant-centric, absolutely. And so what types of things about the plants do you think they would notice that you might not notice?
Well, I definitely wouldn't know if they're edible or not.
You wouldn't know which ones you could eat.
Yeah.
Yep. What else?
Poisonous ones,
Poisonous ones
like
to eat, ones that are not good to eat.
Rash.
So what the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis says is, by the time I listen to your story and your description, and then I come over to your counterpart from the Amazon and listen to their description of the story, it probably will seem that you didn't even visit the same place. And that's the power of linguistics and how it kind of shapes how you actually view the world, what you notice in the world, what you don't notice in the world. And a lot of that has to do with a concept in the chapter that's called focal vocabulary. And so what do you remember about focal vocabulary? What does that actually mean?
I remember that different languages had more words for certain things.
That's exactly right. And so some of the examples from lecture are Eskimos. And so Eskimos seem to have a lot of word for snow and different things like that. So absolutely. And another important nuanced understanding of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis also comes in the example that we talked about in lecture, when you talked about the English speaker and the Navajo speaker. And so the English speaker said what type of sentence?
I make the horse run.
I make the horse run. The Navajo speaker said,
The horse is running for me.
okay, so it really intimates a completely different relationship with the rider to the horse. And so the English rider has what type of relationship with his horse?
It's subservient.
It's subservient. The horse does what the English rider tells it to do. It's serving the English rider. What type of relationship does the Navajo rider have with its horse?
It's more of an even.
It's more
exchange.
even. In fact, it's a partnership, and so the horse is giving me something or doing something for me. So it's a same type of words, a similar sentence, but you can intimate a completely different relationship with the animal between the English speaker and the Navajo speaker. And that's the power of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. And so why do you think it is that we think it's important to learn the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? What value does it kind of add to how you might move through this more global world?
Understanding cultural differences and perspectives.
Absolutely. And so you know if you're meeting someone from a different culture for the first time, even though you kind of have a rudimentary understanding of the language, there are high chances that you might misunderstand each other's meanings and also see things in a different way. So the strong version of the hypothesis says you will never get past that. But the weak version of the hypothesis says if you learn the language well enough and you spend enough time in the environment and understand the history of the people, you will be able to kind of see things as they see them and kind of get a good idea of how they actually picture the world. And that's really important in our global economy that we actually live in. All right, Tristan, how do you feel now about your understanding of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis?
Much better.
Much, much better. And I anticipate that your foundational understanding and what we talked about today will put you in a good shape for understanding it and understanding the value of learning it. And you know for sure that if you get a little bit shaky on it, you can return back to that textbook if you need to, or you can, of course, turn to me at any time for clarification.
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good. Thank
Excellent.
you.
I thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks.
You have a good one. Of course, when a student seeks me out for help, I'm thrilled that they've taken the extra steps to try and understand their world. I do have somewhat of a standard protocol when students seek me out for assistance. The first thing, of course, is to try and make the student feel comfortable and make them feel like I'm here to help. The second thing is I like to help them develop a relationship with the textbook. And so I will always drag the textbook out and try to get them to tell me what their foundational understanding of the concept is, and then get them to compare it to the very simplest thing, which is the definition in the textbook of the concept. From there, I like to remind them of the stories that we talk about in class during lecture, and also the stories that are in the textbook to kind of reinforce the idea of how the concept works. In Tristan's case, what I did was use a thought experiment to really try and illustrate exactly how that concept works in the real world. And that's a fantastic opportunity to kind of demonstrate the value of learning the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. What does it actually mean to the student, and why do I even have them learn this concept? It's important to kind of help them understand how human beings actually construct meaning and how we can bridge the gaps between others who might communicate in different ways. This knowledge is critical for students' development of multicultural and global awareness. I thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to kind of share how I help students try to understand more difficult concepts. Thank you so much for your time.